Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Jo Beckwith, aka Footless Jo from YouTube. For those of you who are new to the channel, this video is going to be a little bit different than my friend watches. This is kind of more of like the type of stuff that I used to do, and I'm so glad to have Jo here with me. She was somebody that I would go to when my channel was starting to grow, that I would go to for advice and stuff, and I really appreciate that. Jo and I have a similar background when it comes to our religious upbringing. It's one of the things that got us talking in the first place. Today, Jo is joining me to talk about Christian movies that we both actually enjoy. And the reason we have that caveat is because we don't like a lot of Christian media. I still identify as a Christian, although if you watch any of my previous videos, I criticize mainstream Christianity, particularly fundamentalist Christianity, a lot. And that gets me a lot of hate from the Christian community, which is a lot of hate. And I'm too religious for a lot of liberals, so I kind of am in this sort of middle ground.
Where just like everyone can hate on you.
It's great. Everybody, whenever I do like any type of Christian-related videos, I get a lot of really mixed responses. Some are good, a lot are bad. What's a little bit about your religious background, I guess?
Yeah, so I was raised, like the first 20 years of my life, I was super Christian. And I feel like I can never stress that enough. Like my faith was my entire world. Like everything that I wanted in life was God. Like every moment, like every waking moment was about this. Then I had a lot of trauma that happened to me like in the church and interpersonally, and everything got pulled into question. So the past 9 years have been me like trying to figure out, do I even believe in anything? Is there a God? And I keep coming back to that. And I would still classify myself as Christian, but I hesitate to say that out loud just because of all of the issues that I have with Christianity and the church, but I'm working on it bit by bit.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, because you know there's like the Bible verse that's like, if you're ashamed of me before man, I'll be ashamed of you in front of my Father, you know, from the New Testament.
That's exactly why I'm like, I shouldn't say that.
I've come to the conclusion of being like, I'm not ashamed of my faith in Christ or of God at all.
Yes.
I'm ashamed of, when I say I'm a Christian, what that associates me with.
Precisely.
You know? Does that make sense?
A way to get rid of all lesbians and queers. Build a great, big, large fence. Put all the lesbians in there. Do the same thing with the queers and the homosexuals. It makes me puking sick.
You see this? This is your representation for Christianity? This is what Christianity is about?
You write that an 11-year-old girl there was allegedly raped. She is now pregnant, and under a new abortion law there, victims will not have the option of terminating a pregnancy.
Oh, that makes perfect. That's exactly how I feel, because that verse is always in my head. I'm like, I'm denying God, but I'm not. Like, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I just can't get behind a lot of the rest of it that comes from people.
And I know I'm painting this with like a wide brush. I know that many believers, some of whom are my best friends, and the most like, they walk the walk, talk the talk, great people. When I say like, when I'm painting this brush as like Christian, I really mean like fundamentalist, you're gonna burn in hell type of Christians that I grew up with, and I know Jo did as well. We're talking about Christian media, or at least movies that have strong Christian themes, and there are a lot that we don't like. We've talked a little bit about God's Not Dead, which is the big one. I've seen God's Not Dead 1 and 2. I didn't watch the third one. And I saw them both in theaters, actually. For me, I don't know who the movies are for. They very much seem like they're for Christians, which, you know, more power to you. But when you do that, you introduce a lot of propaganda-y stuff. They're heavy on like, even in God's Not Dead, it's like Muslims are bad. They're going to smack their daughters. All Muslims smack their daughters. Every atheist that is depicted in that movie are evil or smug or literally like God is dead and we're going to prove it. And
we're going to prove once and for all that God is dead.
So it's very clearly not for atheists, because if you are trying to reach atheists or agnostics, you would not paint them in this like overbearingly negative light.
Like the villain role. You just wouldn't do that.
It boils down to this, the way that it is made for Christians so that Christians can pat themselves on the back. Is the reason I don't like the God's Not Dead movies overall.
I totally agree with that, because I think, I mean, you use the word propaganda, and I feel like it fits really well, because it feels like it's just like, it just makes you feel better about being Christian. And I'm right, and that's right. Atheists are bad, or they really do believe in God. That's another thing that I didn't love about those movies. It seemed to, like, promote the idea, like, who hurt you? That's the only reason you wouldn't. Yes,
you don't really hate God. But you don't really not believe in God. You just hate God. That's what it is.
Since you know the truth, so why do you hate him? It's a very simple question. Why do you hate God?
I listen to a lot of videos from a guy called Mr. Atheist and a lot of Christian channels, so I keep it, varied.
Yeah, keep it balanced,
you got to a little bit. And he talks a lot about that, like how so many people are like, who hurt you? Well, that's why you're doing this. And he's like, no one hurt me. Like the church screwed up, but like I'm good, and this is just legitimately what I believe. And I think to classify everybody in that light of like, we're right, you're wrong, you're not willing to accept it. You know it. You know that you're wrong. Yeah, it just hits me the wrong way, to say the least.
So I watch like these atheist and agnostic channels, and it never makes me falter in my faith. If anything, it's like, it allows me to see what an intelligent person on the other side thinks. A lot of the times, there is validity to what they think, and I think a lot of Christians don't give them that credit. It's a lot of times like, hey, that's actually a really good point. It's really helped evolve the way that my faith is, and it's allowed me, I think, to be a lot more like slow to input my belief and quicker to
all the programming. Listen. Yeah, programming. There's a lot of it. We've talked about that too, about how we've overcome a lot of, or tried to overcome a lot of how we were raised and stuff. Yeah. I think it's really important to listen, like especially at this point in my life, it's so important to listen to different sides, because it's only gonna make you better. Like it's gonna make you question yourself and like dig down into if that's what you really think about any given topic, or like it's not gonna hurt you to sincerely listen to people who disagree with you and then evaluate if you disagree or agree. And I think that's one of the big problems with Christian media in general. It seems to sort of erase that and just paint things as caricatures and take the complexity out of it and make it easy to digest.
I watched this video essay about Christian media, specifically movies and music, and about how we're Christians and our Father is the most creative creator that has ever been.
That's the first thing you learn, that he's creative.
Yes, we are made in his likeness. I've always taken that not only maybe in a physical likeness, but also in like, he puts his personality into all of us to some degree. We're all different, but all very much like similar in certain aspects. So my frustration is, why is Christian media so bland, so the same?
I'm sure a lot of people can agree with this. Let us know in the comment section down below. But when I hear a song come on the radio, I can like instantly tell if I like switch to a Christian station, because they all sound the same.
Movies are the same way. There's the Christians, they usually have to overcome some worldly obstacle.
Yes.
God gets them through, and it's
converts everybody around them, and it's great.
So the atheist kid, the kid in the back, that smart kid who never gave God a chance before, he's up with us, and he's even raising his hands now. I talk a lot about aspects of Christian media, and I criticize a lot of mainstream American Christianity, if you will. But I figure I need to also give some credit where credit is due, which is why I wanted to do this video and talk about Christian movies that I actually really enjoyed. And I asked Joe to do the same. And I'll try to come up with at least one. Were you able to come up with more than one?
I was. It took me a minute. I literally Googled top Christian movies, and I was like, oh yeah, that one was okay. The rest of them not so much. But I got a list of like 5. I'm pretty impressed with myself.
Oh, good. I don't have that many, so we can maybe just do 2, and
I wonder how many of them will intersect.
So this is the top of my list. I don't know if somebody could argue that it's not Christian, like a Christian movie. I disagree entirely. It's a movie called Silence by Martin Scorsese. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's Martin Scorsese, so a lot of people are like, he did Casino, and he's like a really, he does some gory and a lot of language in his movies. This was a passion project for him. It did not do well, obviously, just because it wasn't marketed well, nobody cared. It stars Liam Neeson, Andrew Garfield, and Adam Driver, so a great cast.
Oh, I know what movie you're talking about. I always wanted to see that. I never got to it. Cool.
It is fantastic. It's all about, basically they convert a bunch of Japanese to Christianity, and the whole story is about the priest struggling to pray and maintain his faith through the silence. going through all this persecution. And this is based on a true story, I believe, but incredible persecution, not only of himself, because they're like, why don't you proselytize? Give up your faith. And he's like, never. I'll never give it up. And they're like, okay, what if we hurt these people over here? They've already proselytized. They want the pain to stop, but we're not going to stop until you do. And it's like, what? So I could show my love for these people by proselytizing, but then I'll be saying I don't believe. I love stuff like that, these moral issues.
Oh, seriously.
And basically the movie, I won't spoil how it ends, but it's all about the endurance of one's faith despite the events that goes on around them.
That's very
And I loved
cool.
it for that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that. I love that it's like a mainstream movie, too, that wrestles with those very real concepts. So the number one movie on my list is, I think most people would classify as a very Christian movie, but it was divisive enough that I still feel like I can like it. The Shack. I really liked it. It's the only like strictly Christian movie that I was like, this doesn't suck. I appreciate that it presents concepts as complex. And like, yeah, it simplifies things down. Yeah, it tries to be like overly emotional. But it's like the only movie that I've ever seen that portrayed like God or Jesus as someone I'd want to talk to. Like I'd want to hang out with, who would really be understanding and compassionate and like get the depth of difficult issues. And I've not seen that much anywhere else. I really appreciated how they handled that. So that's and actually my husband liked that movie too, which we both have, very similar ideas about Christian media, but we're both like, you know what, that was okay. So that'd be one I'd let in.
All right, the next one I got is Hacksaw Ridge. This is a Mel Gibson.
Oh,
Did you ever see Hacksaw Ridge?
No, but I heard about it.
Andrew Garfield. It's another one with him, actually. And I don't think he's like devout Christian in real life or anything, but this is a true story about a guy named Desmond Dawes who was a conscientious. He's a conscientious objector during World War II. So, but he also wanted to serve in the military, and so he like went out there with no weapons. And this was his whole thing. He wanted to be a medic. He's like, I'm not going out with weapons. He ended up saving like 40 men, like dragging them, including enemies, dragging them like across and like getting them to safety and stuff. Really crazy story, like, and it was all because of his faith. I forget the specific Christian denomination he was, but
that's another one that I've heard, like as a not mainstream, but like it is Andrew Garfield, so it's not like a super niche Christian little movie.
Yes, yeah, and Mel Gibson too.
Yeah.
I would recommend that heavily if you haven't seen it. Make sure you check out Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah,
What's the next one you got?
I will. The next one, I watched this movie a long time ago. I don't think many people know that it exists, but it's called Amazing Grace. Have you seen it?
Yes, about freeing the slaves.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a heavily Christian movie. Like, I mean, the whole point of what William Wilberforce, that's a hard thing to say. Yes. Did was like based on what he truly believed, and he was very countercultural at the time, even for like other Christians around him. And it was a very well done film. Like it told the story with heavy Christian themes. Like the whole thing was about his faith, but it also didn't shove it down your throat. It was like, he was telling his story, we're telling his story, and I loved that. I thought that one was just exceptional film in general. For me, it's always been a matter of like respect, I guess, because I'm not shy about like me being a Christian or me being a believer, but I know that there are atheists who do have like this, oh, so you're stupid, or you don't. Oh, sure, that happens. But also atheists that don't do that and are very respectful. We just disagree and everything. And same thing, like Christians do it too. They'll look at atheists and be like, "How can you not believe in God?" Yeah, you do believe in God. You just don't believe know it yet. Yeah, everyone believes something happened in your past or something deep down.
But it's always come down to a matter of respect, which is what I think Christians struggle in regards to how they view agnostics and atheists, at least in my experience. So as long as you like respect an atheist or Christian, or just respect what people believe in general, then I'll be your friend. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're like condescending or belittling, I don't really like that. Same here. And I think the other part of it for me is that like I kind of used to be that person. Like I was never an absolute like okay. All right. So you're not alone. It's just our upbringing too. So I'm speaking from experience. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I simultaneously, like, I have a lot of compassion for it, but I also don't have a lot of tolerance for it. Yes. Because I'm like, no, you're being a jerk. Yeah, but I mean, like, I was raised to think that atheists were
real screwed up and evil people and wanted to see the world burn, and the only reason you should ever be friends with them was to like bring them into the fold, was to evangelize, you know, because they needed that. And I just think that's a really harmful way of looking at your fellow humans, and like it's so black and white and so divided, and it just doesn't help anyone. Like when I was like really questioning my faith and going through things, the people who were shoving Christianity down my throat and was like don't leave, they did nothing. Like they did nothing except make me more frustrated. But it was the people who were like, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, you know, like, but we're still Christians themselves. I was like, oh, I can actually like talk through this, and they still see me as a person. They don't just see me as an object to convert to their, you know, household. And it was, it was really helpful.
That's one of the biggest complaints that I've heard about previous Christians that have converted to atheism, or just like atheists, that they don't feel like they can talk to Christians about anything without them feeling that they're trying to proselytize to them. And I understand that. Like, again, I don't hide anything from them, but I know that you've heard this before, my guy, you know?
Yeah.
And
whether it was on like a billboard in Kansas or from someone at your work, I don't know.
Yeah, so I feel like my role as a Christian is to be like, no matter what you believe or what you feel, you're always welcome. You're always going to be my friend. And I think that a lot of I feel like a lot of atheists and agnostics don't feel that way with a lot of mainstream Christianity. They feel like if I'm gay, or if I think a certain way, then they're going to treat me differently or treat me poorly, which is more likely the case. And I hate that. It's really frustrating. And I think it's good that we can at least have discussions about this kind of thing, because it is important.
I think we all think we read the Bible the right way, right?
Yeah,
but like when I read, like when I have read scripture, and I've read it many, many times, like I don't think Jesus was the kind of guy who just shoved things down your throat and saw you as a thing. I think he saw you as a person, which I think if you're gonna try to follow Christ, I think that's important to emulate.
Talk about not shoving things down people's throat. He also literally would like heal people and be like, don't tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
Like, he did that. He was like,
between you and me.
Don't say anything. Like, give it some time. I find Christians that just think that they know everything, and they just know how God works, and they know how he thinks and how he is and how he responds. In my experience, the more I've come to know about God and Scripture, the less I realize the less I know.
That was like paralyzing for me for a long time, like coming out of Christianity, or if I read questions, like I couldn't say, I don't know. That's weird. I don't get it. Yes. Like I always had to have some kind of explanation for, terrible pain or trauma or grief or whatever. Like I had to put a nice Christian spin on it for myself and other people. Yes. And that I realized after a while that I didn't know what I was talking about at all. You know, you're just regurgitating things, and
And I feel like, and this is kind of across the board, but I know especially for Christians, it's so bad to be like, I don't know. I don't know why God did that. I don't know why Jesus said that. Or, you know, we always feel like we have to be like prepared and have to know everything. We don't know everything. I don't know why God does certain things in the Old Testament that I would find kind of morally reprehensible.
Weird. Yeah,
you know?
I sort of feel like that's reflected in a lot of Christian media, that like the stories are so well put together and rounded and sugar coated that like, here are all the answers. See, like we have it. It's all here. It's nice and packaged, and it fixes everything. And I would love to see more Christian movies and films and music, whatever, that wrestled with real things and didn't need to tie a bow on the end of it. Like didn't need to like write a nice end to the book and the chapter, and like, but it's all okay, because like sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really, really not okay. And sometimes you don't have the answers. And I think if Christian media could move more in that direction, it'd be really powerful, both for people who are in the church and outside of it.
I would just be happy if more Christian media were willing to take risks in their art.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, that'd be good.
You know, that's one of the reasons I like Silence so much. It's just, it felt like it put a weight on me watching it, because the themes were so heavy. But it was like nice to see, you know, kind of a more realistic way of perceiving things. Like in God's Not Dead, at the height of Christian persecution is taking place in Arkansas. Like, you know, like, no, it's not. Whereas like in Silence, they're showing you what has happened, like what happened to these people. And it's like real.
What actual persecution looks like. Not like on Facebook.
Yeah, Miss Coleman, you can't lead prayer for your fourth graders. I'm sorry. Oh, this is the end of everything.
That is one thing that like really gets under my skin, like the whole persecution thing. So I'm like, anytime someone challenges you, you're just being persecuted. That's so convenient.
Yeah. Another movie that's on my list is a movie called Joshua. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I have not seen it in a long time. But it was basically sort of like this pseudo second coming of Jesus. Like he comes to like this like small town, and he goes by Joshua, so he's not Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's actually played. Did you ever watch Dexter?
Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
show? Do you remember Dexter's therapist in that show?
Yes.
That's the guy that plays Joshua, like Jesus.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he basically comes to this town and like kind of like fixes up everything. He's of course like a carpenter. And I remember the one scene that stuck with me, even as a kid, and this might have prompted some of my my church investigation video. But I remember Joshua going into like this faith healing tent and like watching this stuff happen. And he literally was like, this is all crap. They're all fake. And there was this one girl that was like in a wheelchair or something who was like, you know, hoping that the people would heal her.
Yeah.
And so he's like, only one person in here has real faith. And he like goes to the girl in the wheelchair and like heals her for real.
Yeah.
And like leaves. I was like, what?
Wait.
I don't know. That scene always like stuck with me. It was really cool. I don't know if that's like even a good message to have, but I was like, okay.
No,
right.
I feel like it is. But I'm cynical, so whatever. There are two that I'm not entirely sure count, but I feel like they do. Chariots of Fire has a lot of has amazing music for starters, but it has a lot of really Christian themes and the real people behind the characters. I think two of them ended like being full-time missionaries after all that, but it's a very like artistic, emotional film, again struggling with like real human concepts. I think they end up at like the Olympics, like it's trying to get there, and it's a really well done film, but it's not like overtly Christian. I also feel like Chronicles of Narnia didn't totally suck in film form.
It was good. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was good. I will defend that movie.
Yes, I liked The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The rest of them...
Caspian, down. I never even saw Voyage of Dawn Treader, so...
Solid choice. I tried. It didn't go well. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like the book always meant so much to me because like the character of Aslan and the parallels that are drawn between like him and God, it was just a really good way of explaining like faith and sacrifice to me. And I think the movie did an okay job. So I'll put that on my list of fairly Christian movies that don't suck.
I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan. So like he was like a big foundational piece of my really me staying a Christian. It's like, I don't know if of how that sounds, but I always was just comforted in just like how intelligent and how articulate.
Very.
I feel like a lot of Christian themes can be really watered down and can just be very predictable and mundane, whereas I felt C.S. Lewis was always very like presenting old things in such refreshing and new ways to make me think about them. Yeah,
and wrestling with like a bunch of really dark stuff and doing so very articulately. His work is beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
The Great Divorce, which was all about like, you know, how the guy died and the way C.S. Lewis portrayed like hell and heaven being as like the most real thing. Like we are like ghosts compared to the reality that is heaven. It was like, wow, okay, very, very cool. A Grief Observed, talk about dark themes, was all about the death of his wife, you know?
Yeah, I love that book in particular. I haven't read it recently, but I need to.
I have, you know, The Passion of the Christ, I feel like was very, very good. I thought that it was very... I was glad that they took the risk of really showing what it was like to like beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't hold back. So I was like, okay. Because usually, like, I don't know if you saw like the 1978 Jesus movie, which I think is fairly good. But anyway, you know, he's just like up there and he's like, all right. And he's done, you know. Like I could see in The Passion why he would die so quickly after everything that he physically did.
When you're talking about Christianity or Christianity being real and understanding the sacrifice, I think portraying that could be important. I think the book is better than the film in this case, but Blue Like Jazz, I love that book. I absolutely love it. It's written by Donald Miller, and they turned it into a movie. And it's great. It doesn't really have much of like a resolution. It's just presenting ideas and themes. And it is very Christian, but again, it doesn't like slap you over the head with the Bible. I highly recommend both the movie and the film.
I never heard of it. I'll definitely check it out.
Both the movie and the book. Those are two different things.
What about, did you ever see Ben-Hur, either the old or the remake?
Yes, I used to watch that every Easter with my family, and I really like it. That's a solid Christian movie.
Yes, it is. Again, it's one that kind of is creative in that they kind of had this character that was just sort of there when things were going on, you know?
I love it, I did have another one on the list, but then I thought about it some more, and I was like, this isn't... The story behind it is a Christian story, but it is not a Christian movie, which is Unbroken.
Oh yeah, Unbroken. That's a good one.
I love that movie. It's one of 3 movies in my entire life that I was like in literal tears at the end. Like I like, you know, like one gentle glistening tear in a lot of movies, but I was like bawling at the end of that movie because it addresses like heavy concepts of forgiveness. It's a true story.
Yeah.
But then if you look into like the larger story of that person, because he was a real person, most of his story is about like wrestling with his faith and like dealing with alcoholism and like trying to come back from all that. And it's a really, really powerful story. They don't portray quite all of that in the film. Faith is a small element, but it's an incredible story. I love it. I just don't know if I could technically classify it as a Christian film. I think Angelina Jolie directed it, so I don't know.
She did.
Maybe. Yeah,
she did. It's great. I know the real guy was very, very devoutly religious.
Yes,
and I know
very.
there was a lot of criticism in the Christian community about not highlighting that enough.
Yes.
Which, fair enough.
I had Blind Side on my list, but it's also, I don't necessarily like that film, especially because of some of the actual story behind it isn't quite as rosy as they portrayed it to be. But that's a Christian movie that didn't suck. Like it talked about like faith in a decent light, so I'll give it a B.
You know, one thing that I habitually do, I've done it for forever, I still do it now, is I'm constantly finding like Christian themes in mainstream movies like all the time.
Oh yeah.
Where I was like, that is so like Christ-like, or I see God in this moment or whatever, and it's just one thing that like I can't break. So I love that like the way that I see it is that like God is so integral in all of us that he just comes out in all forms of media, whether it's intended or not, you know.
I think that I totally see that, and I do the same thing. Like I pick up on it a lot, and I almost wonder that I think that's a good thing. Like if it is true and if it is accurate, it would make sense that we're drawn to similar stories or qualities.
All right, so that's the end. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of our discussion and some Christian movies that you may enjoy or maybe not enjoy. Anything you disagree with either of us, let us know down below. We'll be happy to talk about it. I hope that's okay to say. If you,
100%.
I'm sure you'll be in the comments or whatever. Make sure to check out Jo's channel. She does a lot of great stuff. She was a mentor for me when my channel was starting to grow. So thank you so much for that, Jo. I really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me on your channel. It's awesome.
Yes. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like. It helps me out a lot. I know I'm going to get a lot of dislikes on it anyways. Consider subscribing if you want to see more fun content like this. As always, I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.